welcome back to Food Prep Guide. Today's video is all about beating food inflation. It is something we are all dealing with at the grocery store, so I thought it would be fun to do a video of just really actionable tips for ways that we can save money at the grocery store, specifically as it relates to food inflation and those particular items that are increasing faster than others. Now, before we get into that specific list, I do want to address two quick things. Number one is we are a gardening and food preservation channel, bulk food storage channel. And so you know that we are trying to grow our own food and then preserve that food and then use that food so that we're not having to buy a whole lot at the grocery store on a regular basis. But I am not going to be including that in this particular list because I know that not everyone is at that point. Some people are just beginning their gardening journey. Some people don't garden at all and they're just now kind of starting to research this type of lifestyle or these types of methods to saving money at the grocery store. So I want to keep this video as accessible to as many people as possible. So we are going to be specifically talking about items at the grocery store and different strategies that involve just regular grocery shopping. But just know, if you are new here, we do try to grow as much of our own vegetables, primarily as the stage that we're at in our lives. We hope to be able to expand into fruit in the future and raising animals. Right now we only raise chicken, but just know that that is a very significant strategy to money savings, but we're just not going to be talking about that in this particular video. The second note that I want to note is that if you have been with us for a while, you also know that we tend to bulk buy in 1 year increments, meaning there are certain items in our household that we only purchase once a year, enough to last the whole year. So those items we never purchase from the grocery store. And that is something that we have talked about extensively, both on this channel and in our book, Food Prep Guide. So I'm also not going to be addressing that in this video, but just know that one of the absolute best things you can do for your grocery budget, if you are new to working and trying to figure out ways to cut costs, is to bulk buy. The price per ounce is going to be a lot more affordable than what you can get at the grocery store, but it also works to lock in that price for a whole year. And maybe you don't want to buy for a whole year, maybe you just want to do 3 months or 6 months. At the rate things are increasing, you're still going to be experiencing significant savings just from locking in that price for the next 3 months or the next 6 months. But I do believe that sweet spot is 1 year. And not only does it save you money, it knocks something off of your to-do list. It knocks something off of your things that you have to store in your brain. And it knocks things off of your weekly and monthly grocery list as well. Okay, so we're not going to be talking about bulk food storage either. The 5 tips we're going to be talking about is just regular going to your grocery store. What are some options? What are some alternatives and strategies and methods? So let's go ahead and hop into it.
By the way, if you would like help building your food storage, scroll down to the description box of this video and click this link for our free 1-year food storage plan. We calculated a year's supply of food for one person, then broke that data down into a week-by-week list of items to build your pantry on a budget. We'll send it straight to your inbox. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss all of our upcoming food preservation, pantry storage, and gardening tutorials. Now back to the kitchen.
Okay, tip number 1 is buying the cheaper beans. Now we all know that like rice and beans, that's like the staple food storage items, staple ways to stretch meals. But did you know that certain beans are a good bit cheaper than other ones? If you haven't noticed that, I encourage you to go and check that out next time you're at the grocery store. But there are certain beans that are a good bit more pricey than others. And the bean that I find to be the most affordable is pinto beans. That was true 10 years ago and it is true today. Something about pinto beans, I'm guessing that they grow a whole lot faster and with less nutrient input, and so farmers aren't having to fertilize them as much and put so many resources into taking care of them, and therefore they're cheaper at the store. That's what I'm guessing is going on. But There are the other beans, like chickpeas tend to be pretty pricey, and my personal favorite, northern beans, tend to be pretty pricey. In years past, we stored three types of beans: black beans, pinto beans, and northern beans. But the way prices have been going, when I did my last 1 year stock up on beans, I tossed northern beans out of the equation as much as it pained me to do so. They are just too expensive, so this is the year of pinto beans for us. We didn't even buy black beans, but we did grow them in the garden this year, and I have been able to put up a decent amount of black beans. But if I didn't grow them, I wouldn't even be having black beans on my shelf this year. It would only be pinto beans. Um, Last time I checked, you can get an 8-pound bag of pinto beans for around $6, so it's a good bit less than $1 a pound, whereas most other beans are a good bit above $1 a pound. So we all know beans stretch meals, but we can even drill down even further than that and go for pinto beans. And there might even be some other beans out there that are on that same level price-wise as pinto beans. That's just the one that I have researched the most because it's the one we use the most. But just look for those cheaper style beans. Not all beans are created equal when it comes to price. Okay, number 2 tip is going to be serving dishes over a bed of mashed potatoes, even things that you wouldn't typically think you would serve over mashed potatoes. We all know that potatoes are they're a meal stretcher. And one thing that I have worked into my family's kind of meal planning is, even though I might have one category of meal stretcher that I turn to time and time again, potatoes or rice or beans, I do it in several different ways so that we aren't eating the same things over and over again. It doesn't feel like it helps beat food fatigue. And potatoes are they especially cater to that ability to take one thing and turn it into a whole bunch of different varieties so that you're not eating the same thing over and over again. We have mashed potatoes, we have scalloped potatoes, we have shredded hash browns, you can have your instant potato flakes, you can have your canned potatoes and just have a side dish of mashed potatoes with some melted butter and salt and pepper. There's just all different, you can turn potatoes into, we call them pancake patties, potato patties, potato pancakes, potato cakes. There's just all different ways that you can make those. But one thing that I have turned to time and time again for a quick meal when I am trying to stretch the grocery budget as absolutely much as possible is to serve soups, stews, and meat gravies just over mashed potatoes, and that is our meal. So soups aren't typically all that filling unless it's like a really comforting soup like chicken and dumplings, and of course it has the dumplings in them to make them more filling. But I'm talking about your typical broth-based soups where it's just a whole bunch of vegetables. Typically aren't going to be that filling, but if you make a little well in your mashed potatoes and fill up that well with the soup or the stew or the gravy, whatever the case may be, you can make that stretch a whole lot further. Another thing that we have been really enjoying lately as a meal stretcher is a meat gravy over mashed potatoes. So you have it like a regular gravy, but you add in some stewed meat into that gravy to add some protein to it. That's been another thing as well. And I want to just quickly kind of insert this side note. When it comes to saving money at the grocery store and all of these methods and tips that I am showing you, it's not just about scraping by. There are plenty of times in life, I am sure, when we have all been in that spot, and if you haven't, praise the Lord, what a blessing. But I would venture to say most of us have experienced at least a season in life where we are literally just scraping by, and we have got to have bare bone meals and stretch things as much as possible. So all of these tips certainly work for that. But one thing that I have found over the years in doing this food storage and gardening and food preservation and buying in bulk, our grocery budget has become a savings account that we can withdraw from when the unexpected bills pop up. And so it's not just about saving money because we have to, it's about saving money because we want to, because that is the one bill in our lives that is not fixed. You think about all the bills that you have, your utilities, your mortgage, your car payment, they're fixed normally, right? Like you have to pay this amount every month, but your groceries, that can change. If you can figure out a way to get your $1,000 a month grocery bill down to 500, even if it's just for 1 month, you have $500 you can put into the bank. And so that's what I mean by the grocery budget doubling as like a savings account that we can pull from to pay bills off faster, pay debt down faster, or unexpected medical bills, or your car breaks down, or your washing machine floods your laundry room for the 5th time that year. I think we finally figured out that problem, by the way. um, but just unexpected things that come with life, come with being a homeowner and a car owner and all of those things. So I just wanted to briefly mention that because I don't think it's talked about enough about how your grocery budget can actually be a savings account and not just something that is constantly you're having to put things out for. You can work in these really frugal strategies, even if you don't have to financially, because it can help you get ahead in other areas of life. I just wanted to briefly mention that. Okay, number 3 is going to be meatless meals 2 days a week. We all know meatless Mondays. We all know meat is very expensive, and so serving meals without the meat can save money. So I don't want to just throw that out there and move on. I want to give you 2 very specific meatless meals that our family has really enjoyed. And I will tell you that it is very hard for me to do meatless meals because I have a meat and potatoes kind of husband. He wants meat with every meal, and I don't blame him, but that is expensive in this economy right now. So these 2 meals that are meatless, I have been able to happily feed the whole family, including the meat and potatoes loving husband, and fill bellies and satisfy appetites. Okay, so then the number 1 thing is going to be a side dish night. This has been our absolute favorite kind of meatless hack, is taking all of the things that we would normally serve as a side dish alongside of a meat dish and just doing like a buffet of side dishes. So one night, we have started doing this weekly now, again, to just be able to have that extra money open up. And it is a coleslaw dish that we do, cornbread, sometimes some pinto beans, of course salads, just things that you would typically serve as a side dish. Your sauteed green beans, some sauteed Brussels sprouts, a pot of seasoned carrots, just serving different things as a medley and making that your meal. I generally aim for 4 of those dishes, those side dishes, whenever I am making this. And this is one arena of my life where I have seen the benefit of food preservation the most, because most of what comes out of the garden is vegetables, and so most of that is going to be what I would typically think of, get away fly, what I would typically think of as a side dish. And so having a side dish night be meatless, I can go to my canning pantry or my dehydrating pantry and pull out so many different options so that from week to week, even though we're doing a side dish night, we're still eating totally new and different side dishes each week. So we're not even eating the same side dish each week. So that has been awesome. And I mentioned that coleslaw side dish, that is a canned item. We can't can coleslaw as the typical recipe because it's a mayonnaise-based coleslaw, but we can do like a coleslaw starter that's in like a pickle type brine, drain off the brine, mix it with mayonnaise, and that's how you make your coleslaw. So if you have not seen that recipe, I will link that down in the description box below. It is quickly becoming one of the more popular recipes, both on our website and here on YouTube. So I will link that down below. Okay, the second dish that I am doing the most often to make meatless is cold pasta salads. This is another thing where it is one item, but you can make it so many different ways to, again, not feel like you're eating the same thing each week. And I will note that one of the easiest ways I've found to add bulk and add protein without meat is to do boiled chopped eggs. Boiled eggs chopped up in your cold pasta salad, and you can throw in all different kinds of vegetables, whatever you have coming in from the garden, whatever is on sale, fresh at your grocery store, or frozen vegetables do really well in cold pasta salads if you're able to Prep that pasta salad several hours before or even overnight and just let those vegetables thaw in your fridge inside the salad overnight. Frozen vegetables work really well in pasta salads. You can mix up the cream or the sauce of your pasta salad and make that different each time. One of my newfound favorite ways is taking a half pint of our pickled peppers that we've done this year, draining off that vinegar brine, and putting that in a bowl with mayonnaise, using my immersion blender to blend all that up. And the sauce that that creates is so good. The pickled peppers, are, of course, are tangy because they're pickled. And even though we're draining off that vinegar brine, they still retain that vinegary tanginess. And it just makes a delicious sauce. Pesto is another one. If you've been with us for a while, you know we put up pesto every year in the freezer, and that's a delicious pasta salad sauce. You can mix up, what's some other ones that I can't think of? Oh, sun-dried tomatoes. Taking the sun-dried tomatoes, mincing them up, especially if they're the kind that are sitting in olive oil, because that olive oil gets kind of soaks up the flavors of the sun-dried tomatoes. So if you can get that and mix it with sour cream or mayonnaise, or we've even tried ranch before. It wasn't our favorite, but plenty of people love ranch, and so that would make a good sauce. But mixing up those minced up sun-dried tomatoes with the olive oil into that makes a really lovely sauce as well. And then the last one that I can think of off the top of my head is turning your relishes that you can from the garden, whether it be a sweet pickle relish. Sweet pickles are so good in cold pasta salads. They really pair well with tuna. You can mix in tuna into the pasta salad, even though we're talking about keeping things meatless. It's a good way to stretch meat too. Our canned venison and tuna make their way into our cold pasta salads pretty frequently because we can take just one tiny little jar and really make it stretch into that pasta salad and still get some good protein and feel like we're getting some meat. So it doesn't necessarily have to be meatless. But anyway, back to the relishes. Your sweet pickle relishes. If you're someone who makes chow chow, I bet cowboy candy would be really good mixed into some kind of saucy base to make pasta salads with. If you make a squash relish, all of those can be mixed with some kind of creamy base to make an almost instant sauce for your cold pasta salads. So that's another side dish night, and cold pasta salads, especially during the summer when it is so hot. We've got the kitchen running hot almost every weekend, canning and preserving. Those cold pasta salads really come in handy, especially this time of year. Tip number 4 is meal planning. Of course, that is something that is widely known and widely practiced by many of you, but I want to again be very specific and give you a specific strategy within the meal planning, and that is going to be planning in 2-day pairings to use up your leftovers. We all know that using leftovers is a great way. That's how you can prevent food waste, which you're going to be saving money just by preventing food waste. But also reimagining leftovers so that you're not eating the same thing 2 days in a row. And working that into your meal plan can save you a lot of money because you're essentially only having to buy that food item once and making it last 2 days. So some 3 things that I go to time and time again. Number 1 is going to be your is like a chicken and rice dish. We do this chicken and rice dish that my mother-in-law gave to me when I got married. It was a family favorite of theirs, and now it's a family favorite of ours. And that is a fantastic way to on day 2 to throw that chicken and rice and add seasonings, flavorings, coconut aminos instead of soy sauce, and a whole bunch of vegetables, and then make fried rice. So you have chicken and rice one night, which is a really nice, savory, chicken-heavy dish. But then the next night, throw in a whole bunch of vegetables, season it totally differently with your soy sauce or your coconut aminos, and fry it up and make a fried rice dish. That's a wonderful 2-day pairing. The second one that we go to a lot is going to be just a roast, just doing that in a crock pot and having roast as your main dish with a whole bunch of side dishes, which is a pricier meal. But then on day 2, you can turn that roast, mix it with barbecue sauce, put it on some either just plain sandwich bread if you need to, or slider buns, and making barbecue pulled pork sandwiches with that, serving that alongside a pickle spear from your garden or the coleslaw starter from your garden, and make that a really easy way to kind of decrease the overall price of that pork shoulder or just that roast that you purchased and make it stretch. And the third way that we love to do 2-day pairings is anything that can go well inside of a taco shell. So the first night would be your main dish, whether it be a crock pot dish or a sheet pan dinner, or a sheet pan or a skillet dinner, excuse me, sheet pan dinner in your oven, or a stovetop skillet dish. A lot of those types of recipes do really well the next day when thrown into a taco shell and topped with sliced avocado and some sour cream. Or if all you have is shredded cheese, just throw some shredded cheese on it. A lot of things that you wouldn't think is a taco-based dish because it's not necessarily, maybe not a Tex-Mex or not a Mexican flavors, but it can go really well in a taco shell. And it doesn't have to be in a taco shell either. You could serve it on a bed of chips for nachos. But basically just using leftovers the night before and turning them into more of a Tex-Mex type dish. We do that on Tuesdays, your stereotypical Taco Tuesday. So on Mondays, we typically will do something that really the next day I can shred up or add some onions or something and just throw into a quesadilla or nachos or a taco or something like that. And you only had to use and cook. That's another thing. Not only are you only having to spend money on that meat that one time, but you're only having to cook and prep that meat that one time, and it lasts for 2 days. So it's also not just a meal planning thing, but it's a meal prepping thing and how you can save time in the kitchen too. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, number 5 tip is this is a hard one, I know, but it is going to be only drinking water and not spending money on anything that you drink. This has been something that we instituted a long time ago when we started having children, actually, which my oldest child is now 12 years old. Oh, goodness, about to enter the teenage years. But we instituted this a very long time ago, so it is nothing to us anymore. But we just instituted water only. We weren't going to spend money on juices and sodas and water flavor enhancers. And the only kind of exception to that rule, we do still purchase like your body armors, like your Gatorade type drinks for their electrolytes, and we keep those on hand for when we have like a sickness that wipes out our electrolytes, or those really heavy work days for my husband when he is outside in 90-degree temperatures, and me working outside in 90 to 100-degree temperatures in the garden. Just being able to replace those electrolytes I do feel is really important and worth the investment, so we do keep those on hand for those times, but it's not an everyday like juice enjoyable type drink. It is a very specific purpose of replenishing electrolytes, but I can't tell you how much money we have saved over the years with only drinking water and not doing any kind of juices, sodas, flavor enhancers, anything like that. I know it's tough, especially with kids when they are really used to those juicy, fruity drinks. But I will tell you that it didn't take long at all for us to transition away from that. As with anything in life, that transition and that change is the hardest part, but if you can stick with it for 2 weeks, I think is the general rule of thumb where 2 weeks a habit is ingrained. If you can push through those 2 weeks, it can save you so much money to just drink water and not put any of your grocery funds towards drinking and only towards the foods that you're going to be eating. Can't tell you how much that has saved. I haven't even tried to calculate it. I mean, I haven't tried to calculate it, but I can tell you it would be a lot. Okay, y'all, that was it. 5 tips. I hope that was helpful to you. If you don't know, we do have a book, Food Prep Guide, and I will link that down in the description box below. We talk about all sorts of ways to save money at the grocery store. We talk about buying in bulk. We talk about saving money online and how you can find those deals. We talk about gardening and food preservation and how it all works together. I think that's the key. That is the key, is how it all works together and boils down to meal planning and actually cooking with everything that you have grown or preserved or sourced or bought in sales, bought in bulk, all of that. Anyway, so many strategies are in that book, and we built it as a workbook so that it has things that you can actually write in the book. We have printables, trackers, cheat sheets, note-taking sections, and just trackers and printables to help you keep everything organized, like your inventory and your favorite recipe, your family's favorite recipes, and things like that are actually built into the book to make it more like a workbook that you can work through. Okay, I hope that was helpful to you. That will be linked in the description box below and on the screen right about there, and we will see you next time. Bye.